What's up guys, TopTierYugioh here. Today I want to talk about a quick Yu-Gi-Oh theory, that being the complexity of the game state. So the complexity of a game state means the number of usable cards that are allotted to both players among any of the card zones. So the more cards that are in play, the more complex the game is. The less cards, the simpler the game is. So if you were to look at a floodgate, this keeps your opponent from playing cards. This stops your opponent from special summoning, for example. So if your opponent has a monster that special summons itself, its card is now dead, it's useless. So that takes away from the usable number of cards, thus simplifying the game state. So now why should you care? Why is this important to you? So every deck has an ideal type of game state that they want to play in, and so you need to build your deck around that. So do you want to play in a complex game state, or do you want a simple game state? And how you answer these questions helps determine your deck building choices. Complex decks prefer to have a lot of cards so that they can outplay their opponents, while simple decks take advantage of the fact that combo decks do need a lot of cards, while also having very strong standalone cards. And so like an example of a good standalone card would be like Kozmo Farm Girl, where if you only have Farm Girl and like a clear board, this is going to be able to search you more Kozmo cards. This is going to get your engine going with just a single monster, a single card. Whereas if you look at a deck like Monarchs, they're a very complex deck. They want a complex game state where both players have a lot of cards. They don't have a single card in their deck that's gonna get the job done for them. Like if you have just like an Eddy, it's gonna summon you an Eidos, but you still need to tribute summon something. Or if you look at Pendulums, they need at least 2 scales and then other monsters to summon. Burning Abyss want to make Xyz monsters, so you need at least 2 Burning Abyss monsters. So all of these decks require complex game states. So 2 common examples of how this affects your deck building is the choice between Effect Veiler and Max C, and MST and Twin Twister. So I'll talk about Twin Twister and MST first. So both of these cards serve the same purpose. They're both for destroying back row. MST takes 1 card away from both players, while Twin Twister takes 2 cards away from both players. So Twin Twister simplifies the game state more because it takes away more cards from both players. So like if we both have 5 cards and we play MST, now we both have 4. Versus with Twin Twister, now we both have 3. So this will be a simpler situation. So depending on the type of game state you want to play in, this should determine your choice. So if you want to play in a simple game state, you should be playing Twin Twister. Versus if you want to play in a complex game state, you want MST. Now the one difference though is that you have to discard for Twin Twister. So while Twin Twister may be a 2 for 2 normally, the decks that usually play it that also want complex game states also have graveyard effects. So if you look at something like Burning Abyss, or if you discard a Seer, you're going to use Seer's effect. So rather than being a 2 for 2, it becomes a +1. Or in Monarchs, you would get Eddy as effect, making it a +1. So these are situations where playing Twin Twisters, rather than being a 2 for 2, becomes a +1, which complicates the game. So that's why they play this. But a counter example would be in Pendulums, where you don't have any graveyard effects. None of your cards are good in the graveyard. Twin Twister in this case just simplifies the game and doesn't do anything for you, and that's why if you're playing Pendulums, it would be better to play MST versus Twin Twister. So if we were to rank them in terms of complexity, from greatest to least, I'd say the most complex deck, the deck that wants the most complex game state would be Monarchs. Because if they have a lot of cards, they're able to beat any other deck in the meta. So this is the most complex deck, followed by Fire King Kozmo, because again, if they have the ability to do their combos, they're just gonna outright win the game, like for sure. Then Pendulums, because they too, when allowed to play, can make some insane boards. PK Fire, then Burning Abyss, and then Card of Demise Kozmo. This was the best card I had to signify Card of Demise Kozmo. And so the way this works is when going down the ranking, you want to complicate the game state because you're going to be able to outplay your opponents when you both have a lot of cards. When going up, you want to simplify the game state because you don't want to exchange card advantage with a deck that's going to outplay you. For example, if you're a Monarch player and you're playing against Fire King Kozmo, you're going to want to side Max C or main deck Max C even, because you're going to let them do their combo, and then you're going to draw cards, they're going to get cards through their own effects, and it doesn't matter, because you're going to have Ether and Stormforth to get rid of whatever they're doing. Or you have Prime to protect yourself, they're not going to be able to beat you, regardless of how many cards they have. But if you're playing Pendulums, you don't have that type of defense. You're not going to be able to outplay Fire King Kozmo if they have a lot of cards, so that's why in that case, Veiler would be better. And this is where this theory really comes into play. It really helps you make your decisions. So like Max C is a card where both players get cards. When one deck special summons, the other deck gets to draw, the other one's going to get cards through their own effects. Whereas Veiler simplifies the game state. Veiler takes a card away from its controller, because you're losing the actual Veiler, you're discarding it, and then your opponent is not able to get their effects. So whatever they would summon, they're not getting. So it simplifies the game that way. However, the worst place to be, according to this theory, is in the middle. You don't want to be in the middle. You want to either be the top or the bottom. And this is why I think the Demise Kozmo build is the best right now, between Demise and Fire King Kozmo. Because when you're in the middle, you don't know what to play. If you're a Monarch player, if you look at a lot of Monarch decks, they main deck Max C. Why? Because you want to complicate the game against any of these. All of these decks special summon, and then when they do, you want to get more cards for that. They don't play Veiler because you don't need to stop them. Whereas if you're playing a deck like, say, Burning Abyss, it wouldn't be bad to main deck Effect Veiler right now because you need to stop Monarchs from going off. You need to stop Fire King Kozmo, stop Pendulums. You can't let them play the game because if they do, it's going to be harder for you to win. But if you're in the middle, so say you're playing Pendulums, you need both in that case. So if you're playing against Card of Demise Kozmo or something down here, again, you want to complicate the game state, so you're going to want Max Cs. But when you're playing against Monarchs, these Max Cs are going to be dead. You're going to want Effect Veilers in that case. And so if you main deck one over the other, you're going to lose half your matchups, or depending on your matchups, you're going to lose a certain amount of games. And you don't want that situation, and that's why you don't want to be in the middle. So like for a while, people thought Fire King Kozmo was the second best deck behind Monarchs. It's the second best in a complex game state, I should say. But overall, you don't want to be second best in a complex game state. You either want a very complex game state or a very simple one, because in the middle, your choices can be bad. You can lose. So like I said before, Monarchs are all playing Max Cs versus if you're playing Card of Demise Kozmo, you don't need to worry about that because you're playing all traps and floodgates because you want to simplify the game because that's where you're able to win. You're not playing Max C and Card of Demise Kozmo, and ultimately being able to concretely say that you need one versus the other makes your deck more consistent overall because you're not going to be dead drawing the wrong card in certain situations. So in my last video, the Pure Burning Abyss deck profile, there were a lot of questions, not a lot of questions, but there were questions about why I'm playing Vanity's Emptiness and Mass Change second. The reason for that being is that Pure Burning Abyss is pretty low in this ranking, meaning against most other decks, I want to simplify the game state. Both of these do that. Vanity's Emptiness, like I said before, keeps your opponent from playing, thus reducing the number of usable cards. Darklaw does the same thing. Against Monarchs, this takes away some of the plays that they have, especially against Pendulum where nothing's going to the extra deck. You can't do the Fire King combo against Darklaw because it banishes the ships. And so Darklaw and Vanity's Emptiness both simplify the game state. It's kind of the same with the Kaiju engine as well. So you're taking a more complex monster and replacing it with a simpler one. But overall, let me know what you think about this theory. I think it's really important to understand this because you need to know where your deck is. You need to know what kind of game state you want to be in so you can make proper deck building decisions. Especially with things like MST versus Twin Twister or Maxi versus Veiler, where you have all good choices, but they might not be the best for your deck in certain matchups. And this definitely comes into play when you're side decking, because you're going to play more game 2s and 3s than game 1s. So guys, please like this video. I have more deck profiles coming soon, especially because Nats are coming up, so I really wanted to show you guys the decks I think are good for Nats. That's why I had the Demise Kozmo, the Burning Abyss, and I'm going to have Monarchs coming soon, so definitely like this video for that. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.